Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Athletes Are Human First podcast. I have a very special guest here with me. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. My name's Danelle Bishop. I am the head women's basketball coach at Cal Poly Pomona and starting my 15th season here.
Awesome, and good luck this season. Obviously, we'll get into that more as we go. Just want to start with tell me a little bit kind of about you, your playing career. I've done some research and kind of saw some of the stats and everything. Let's talk about your playing career.
Yeah, we won't talk about what year. We'll keep that out of it. But I grew up in Manteca, California, which those that may or may not know, it's probably about 45 minutes an hour between Sacramento and the Bay Area. Grew up playing for my dad in high school, which was a great opportunity. It was the first time he had ever coached girls basketball. He had previously coached boys and just kind of he fell in love with coaching girls, and obviously, he got to coach me. So that was a blessing. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, I played travel ball. Travel ball was a lot different back then. There were about five main tournaments between April and June that you played in, and that's what you prepared for. We didn't play every weekend. But we practiced a lot, and I remember those days. My dad driving me back and forth to Sacramento or the Bay Area, depending on which travel team I was on that year, and just all the time and dedication that took from him. And so I took a lot of pride in that, and really wanted to not just prove to my dad, but prove to everybody that I could do this in college. And I was the first one to graduate on both sides of my family from college, and ended up earning a scholarship at University of Florida. I was a part of their Fab Five recruiting class that year. Unfortunately, I had gotten hurt in the preseason and pulled strained muscle into my back and things like that. And I had never been injured before. So being far away from home and not having cell phones at that time made it a little bit difficult, just being far from home and trying to recover from those injuries and whatnot. But had a great experience there. Ended up transferring, so that was Division 1, obviously SCC, and I actually chose to go there probably for not many reasons that a lot of players choose to go places. I was recruited by, didn't take all my five official visits, but had Illinois and North Carolina, Charlotte were other schools I was highly looking at too, but decided to go to Florida for probably the wrong reasons. At first I was, in awe of just all their facilities,
Mhm.
and of course I got to go to a football game, and the football is just so different out SEC compared to California. So that was a lot of fun just to kind of experience that in my age, I think. But the reason that was good, why I decided to go there, was because if I would have gone to either North Carolina, Charlotte, or Illinois, I probably would have played pretty good minutes like right away. And for me, I always wanted to get better. And I knew if I went to the SEC and playing against at that time, I was going to have to be guarding Marlakia Jones, who ended up playing in the WNBA. And I knew every day I was like, oh my gosh, like my dad and I talked about, I'm going to get to guard one of the best players in the SEC at the time. And how much better would I get in practice every day doing that? And so it ended up being a blessing in disguise being able to do that, even though I ended up transferring. We didn't have a transfer portal at that time, but ended up transferring and ended up going to ended up going to another Division 1 school, but ended up just kind of not working out. I had to sit out that year because the rules were different, and
Yep.
then transferred to San Joaquin Delta Junior College, which was one of the probably best decisions. And in so many ways, I got to play for Coach Gina Johnson, who you're very familiar with, and
Awesome.
to be honest, one of the best coaches out there. I know sometimes people say it's a junior college, but that's a ton of work at that level, and she does it with such grace, her wisdom. At that time she was younger, and just for me to be able to learn from her and then be able to come back, and I end up coaching with her
Mhm.
for a little bit, and she's just one of my mentors and love her to death. So I got to have my dad as my coach in high school and got to play for Gina at the time and learned just so much. And I kind of knew then that I wanted to be a coach. I ended up finishing at a Division II school. They're now Division I, but Tarleton State. So to make a long story short, for me at the time, it wasn't in my plan to transfer, but I think everything happens for a reason. And I was really to me, I feel like just benefited from having different coaching experiences because I wanted to be a coach. And, when I was in high school, it was I either wanted to be a sports agent or a coach. And I think having that experience with my dad and then being able to have that experience with Coach Johnson, I pretty much knew I want to coach. And so I kind of looked at all my transfers. Okay, what am I learning? The good and the bad. And I think that's what I try to tell all of our transfers now. Okay, because we do have a lot that come in sometimes that haven't had the best experiences.
Hmm.
So those that don't know, we're in say Division II, and we have 5 national championships here at Cal Poly. The last was in 2002. The closest we've been since I've been head coach has been a Final Four. So we're still trying to get that next national championship, but yeah, so I kind of use that with my players when they transfer in is, have them remember this isn't your other place. It's a new place, and taking those experiences and just growing from them in whatever ways that you possibly can. And like I said, there's good. And sometimes there are bad, but I feel like you can learn from those bad experiences or grow from them. Maybe it's not a learning, maybe it's just a growing thing. So yeah, so it's kind of my playing career and how I decided I wanted to be a coach, and I ended up staying to be a graduate assistant at Tarleton State. And then came back and coached with Coach Johnson for a few years, and then got my first head coaching job at Azusa Pacific at the age of 27 years old.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about, I mean, your freshman year in college, you had the mindset of like, yeah, I can go to practice against some of the best players, really develop and learn. I think nowadays all the freshmen want to go in and play, right? So how do we combat that and, te teach kids that it's okay to not play. You can learn from kind of who's in front of you, still get better, but still not think of it as like, oh, I'm not playing. This is not a successful season for me.
That's a tough question to answer. And if, I'm gonna be pretty honest in this podcast today, I think with the current landscape of athletics and the transfer portal, a lot of it, that's just kind of how it is. I think in travel ball and high school, and it's okay, hey, this isn't working. Let's just go try a new coach. And I think sometimes when you go try a new team or a new coach, they're valid reasons. So a lot of times they're very valid reasons. But then there's sometimes where maybe sometimes you're just not good enough yet.
Yeah.
That's the key word, yet. And I think that's the part is like kind of enjoying that process. But I think because I know we're going to get to this, there's so much hype with social media. So you notice I didn't talk about any social media throughout my career because there was
There
none.
was none.
In fact, my freshman year in University of Florida, I was part of a class of the World Wide Web, is what they call it, and that's where they started developing WWW. So, aged myself there. But with that being said, I think they want the hype right away, immediately. And how am I going to get my kids somewhere? And I get it, but I also think you have to do first, you have to know your child and know what level they're at, and you have to be honest with what level they're at.
Yes.
And I think that's the hardest part is everybody wants to be at this level, but they're just not there yet. And I think that with these rankings that come out when they're in, third, fourth grade and on up, people getting these offers, which are non-committable offers,
Hmm.
seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th grade, they're non-committable offers. And at least that's what I call them. And so to answer your question, I think it's getting harder going back to the freshmen and telling them, hey, just stick it out, just stick it out. Now, I've actually been lucky with the way the transfer portal has changed the rules now. So first there became a transfer portal. It used to
Hmm.
be you just kind of had to find your own transfers. That's how we used to do it. So I would always recruit players that I knew were probably going to go Division I, but I still recruit them just in case,
Hmm.
something didn't work out. Not never hoped that, but it just in case. And so that actually was very beneficial for our recruiting during my time here and even my previous schools. But I think now It's like you can transfer Division One, you can transfer, I think now it's multiple times,
Hmm.
and there's no sitting
No
out or
sitting out.
anything like that. So it's hard to say, just stick it out, because I think it's just the world we live in. You want immediate satisfaction, in all areas of our life, I think. We want things to always be, always happy, and and that's great because you want to be happy. But the only time that we actually grow and as people, is when when we're going through something,
Hmm.
whatever it might be. That's the only, I don't know too many people that everything's just great and you're never being
Right.
challenged, and then you're still growing. Now, there are some that do, but I'm just saying in general, if you're not being, and I use the word crushed because I think about a grape, and when a grape is crushed, that process, right? And if you think about it, going into maybe eventually making wine, for example, or whatever it might be, ends up turning into something great, but it had to be crushed first to get through that process. And I think for me, I've actually been really lucky. We had four freshmen that came in, they're about to be juniors, that are still here, and I'm super excited. They're awesome, and I use them as examples a lot because I had one that didn't play her freshman year. The first, she didn't play all November, didn't play at all in December. She eligible and practicing, she
Hmm.
just didn't get in the games, and I kept telling her, keep working, and it's hard because it's like you want to play them, you want to play everybody as a
Right.
coach, but it's also, I'm here to help win games for the university. That's my job.
Hmm.
I just kept telling her to keep working. And then sure enough, she ended up starting for us. An opportunity arose. She had to come in a game. Forget what happened in that game. I think the player had gotten in foul trouble. And I mean, it was like the lights were on, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is what I've been needing to see. And then she slowly just kept building, and the same thing happened to another one of the players that were a freshman, that came in that same group, but not till last year. Now it was their sophomore year. We are on the road at Chico. I just told this story to our team the other day because we have 15 players, the most I've ever had, and I said there's 200 minutes in a game and there's 15 of you. So we've got to do the math here and get this
Yep.
figured out. There are going to be times where you might play a lot, and there might be times where you don't, but you've got to keep working. So I use the example of one of my other players. We were at Chico. She didn't play much her freshman year, didn't play really that much in her sophomore year until I think it was like the end of January or middle of January. And I had, everybody seemed to be in foul trouble, and I had to go with her. I had to. I mean, she came in, she ended up was like 8 for 8 field goals. I think she ended up with like 12 to 14 rebounds. She was amazing. And then the whole team, we ended up winning that game. And because of her,
Yeah.
just we do spotlights at the end of all of our games, even our losses. And the whole team just spotlighted. And I think what it did was for her to see, okay, every day that she was out there the last year and a half wasn't perfect, but she just kept working. And there were some better days than others, but she just kept working. And then she came in and took advantage of an opportunity, is what I'm getting at. Is took advantage of an opportunity. Not only did she see it, I saw it and the entire team saw it. And what that did for her as we went, she ended up starting a few games for us, but just really lifted her confidence, her spirit. Now she has this back in practice, this like excitement. And
Yeah.
so for me, that's why I coach, is for those moments.
Hmm.
However, that's really, I don't think the case these days is everybody sticking it out. And the last thing I'll add, if this is okay, is, my daughter chose, if I could bring her in,
Yeah.
plays in high school. She'll be a sophomore this year, and ended up going to Ontario Christian last year and was there in most games like their sixth man. And we chose to go there. She'd been wanting to go there before all the hype when she was little. We knew some people there, and then Special K goes there, Tati goes there. It's got Alana Neal, Danny Robinson, and Sydney Douglas goes
Mhm.
there. And so everybody's like, "Oh, are you guys going to transfer? You guys, where are you guys going to go now?" Because we got a last minute transfer in, and I told her, I said, "No, do you realize being around that mindset every day, being able to practice with them every day, how much better you'll get from that. So we really focused with her, and I think that's what made her such a great person on that team,
Mhm.
was because she didn't care about her playing time. Of course, she wanted to play. I'm saying it didn't affect when she got an opportunity how she played when she came in. But that also came from myself and my husband instilling that in her. So hey, no, guess how much better you can get if you go in with a mindset every day and be the best teammate. What I was most proud of, her being the sixth, seventh man as a coach, she was the majority of the time first person off the bench, giving high fives, cheering on her teammates. And most pictures that you'll see when she is on the bench, or you see of the coaches, you see her standing right there in those photos, jumping up and down. So I think those are things that are lost arts these days. And I don't know if you agree with that. You don't have to, but I really feel like it is. And I think that's kind of a little bit of the issues these days with what's been going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit a lot of really good topics. I mean, obviously, with your daughter, it could have been easy for you as parents to say, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go somewhere where you can go start, right? Because there would have been a million other schools that would have given you that opportunity to come in, start as a freshman. But the fact that you guys were encouraging her to stay, but also helping her through that process, right? Because I think a lot of kids maybe don't have the support from their parents to go through something like that, right? She probably
Yeah.
went in thinking she was going to play, and then when you have three 5 stars, I mean, that's tough, right? And then you have
Yeah.
a senior, and then another tough underclassman, right? So it's like seeing those 5 girls. I mean, there's very talented kids, right? And it's not to say that your daughter's
Oh,
not
yes.
talented, but it's like realizing like she could still practice against them every day, get great experience, but also being a good teammate. Like that's so important. A lot of college coaches, when they're recruiting, that's what they look at. They want to see, because you're not going to come in and play 25, 30 minutes as a freshman. It's probably not going to happen unless you're a big time 5 star player, right? But for
Yeah.
99% of the kids, you're going to have to come in, be a good teammate. If you get 1 minute, 5 minutes, you still have to be a good teammate, run off the floor, give high fives. So I think that by you guys as parents helping her through that, like that's huge. And I think I wish we saw that more in youth basketball, honestly, because it's the first thing is like, okay, let's go transfer. We got to find a better situation. And it's like, well, you can still find it good in that situation, and it's just really your perspective on it, though.
Oh, absolutely. And I think she gained a ton of experience. She gained some great friendships. She was well coached. She enjoyed all of it. She enjoyed all of it, and that's, and then kind of putting it in back with our players is, to have particularly those two, or what I mean, if they didn't play right away, for them still to be here, they could have transferred. I think, shows a couple things. One, I think that shows a lot about our culture as a program. But two, I think they see, okay, this is where I'm going, and they see that process. And so I'm really excited, at least I'll use those as an example, one, because you had asked about the freshmen, but it was just a great example anyways, to see them just continue through that process. And I'm excited for them this season to see what those four end up doing this year, because not only have they stuck it out and they're all at different levels, but our team should be fairly decent this year. I'm excited about it. And so to see them and to see those lights turn on, and now to see their upperclassmen, and to
Mhm.
see they had leadership before, as actually as younger ones, but now to see it at this level, for me, it's just super exciting to see their growth. And it's hard if they leave after the freshman year, you don't get to see it,
I mean, I think
so
that
it's
speaks
exciting.
volumes, right, about your program, as you as a head coach, but also your whole coaching staff, for kids to want to stay through that, right? For 4 freshmen to come to junior year, I mean, there's probably not a whole lot that can say that freshmen that didn't play much and are still there their junior year and now are going to be a big part of the team. Like that says a lot about your program, how you develop players. Obviously, that means they see the value in the program, but also as a coaching staff, how much you really care about them. So, I mean, that says volumes about your program for sure.
Well, thank you. And I think it's it's everybody together, kind of as you said. So it's exciting. I'm excited for him. I'm really excited for him this year.
Yeah, that I love that. I'm excited to see. I'm gonna follow them now and see kind of how they're doing and all that. So that's awesome to see. Talk a little bit. You mentioned non-committable offers because I don't think people know what that means, right? So let's kind of go a little bit deeper into what a non-committable offer means.
Well, I'll say what it means to me, and
Okay.
then if you want to add in, maybe what that means to you, maybe. But I think, it's like we came back from, the viewing periods, and then, you see social media just bombarded with, oh, excited, for the opportunity from the offer from so and so, this school, and they have all these graphics and they're typically, most of the non-committable ones are typically like eighth through sophomores, and to be honest, maybe even some juniors. And basically what that means is these schools offer to these players for one because they are highly interested in them. They're not just gonna throw an offer out. But if you went and counted, and I don't want to use any schools as an example, but if you went and counted like a couple of these schools and the amount of offers they had, and I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, they just threw out literally, I saw 12 from one school. And they were all between eighth grade, current eighth graders, and then some that are going to be freshmen. And I'm like thinking, how do they even have that many spots open, by that year? So basically, non-committable means their offers kind of more to show their interest, I think, for the hype, to get the player a little bit excited about their program, and I think it's awesome and exciting. I think what I would say is to those that aren't getting those, is it not to worry about it, and I think they hear that a lot, but I think it's real easy to get discouraged. And I think too, if you see, and I don't know if you've seen this, if you see some players maybe on like you probably actually have, you see some players on like a really well-known travel team. And then you have some on maybe a not so well-known travel team, or maybe it's not Nike, Adidas team, right? But then you see some of these kids on this well-known team that are getting all these offers, but the kid on this other team is actually better than them. They're not getting the same offers. And
Mhm.
so it kind of, I don't know if it's, I don't know what I don't know. Don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to say, but then you kind of wonder like, okay, is this all for the hype for the program too, for that travel ball program? And then they get more hype too because they know they're going to promote that, because it's non-committable. So they can throw out an offer, but is that offer really there by the time it's time to do those official visits right before they decide to sign? That's what I mean. Most of the time, those same ones they're getting aren't even there. They're not even still in contact with them. So for our level, Division 2, every school is different. So I'm just going to talk about Cal Poly Pomona and how we do it. We're not throwing offers out. um, an offer means something from us. When we offer something to you, we're ready to offer, and we're ready to see if it's reciprocal. Is this somewhere you want to be? And we typically don't do that until we get them here on a visit. But it's also has to do because we're not fully funded. So I'm not trying to throw out offers that I can't commit to when it comes, time to actually sign.
Yeah, I mean, we see kids of all ages, right? From elementary school, middle school, getting offers, and then they're, to your point, they're not committable, right? So like they can't just say, okay, I'm signed, I have a full scholarship 5 years down the road. I mean,
Right,
it's just not a committable offer.
right.
Talk a little bit more about like what does fully funded mean? Because I think everyone thinks, oh yeah, you're D1, D2, you guys have all these scholarship money to offer to everyone. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about the different levels and what fully funded versus non-fully funded programs mean?
Yeah. So at the Division 1 level, they have for women's basketball, and every sport is different, and male to female could be different. But the Division 1 level, there are 15 fulls on the men's and the women's side. They have 15 full scholarships, to to my knowledge, I think they can kind of do whatever they want with. They can most of the time maybe recruit out of state, recruit internationally.
Hmm.
And I think there's different ways, I think sometimes from what I've heard, maybe your 14th, 15th scholarship, if you've had to you kind of need some of that money. I think sometimes you can use it in your other ones, and not to go into details, but they finagle different scenarios.
Right.
So at Division two, the max for Division two across the board throughout the United States is 10 full scholarships. Now, I say that's the max. However, in the state of California, for state schools, we're a Cal State University Polytechnic Pomona. Um, Ours is all based off of what the university decides.
Hmm.
So we're currently funded about 7.5 scholarships. Now, if they ever decided to go to the max of 10, that would be awesome. So a lot of teams, that are funded like that, other parts of the country, and also some other teams in California. Some of the private schools that typically have a little bit more money. And again, I'm saying what we're at. There might be other schools in our conference that might be funded at the 10. But as I mentioned earlier, I have a team of 15 right now, and it's the most I've ever had. I typically have had lower numbers, around 12 is what I've kept it at. But for some reason, since COVID, I'm sure you probably agree, it seems like there's just more and more injuries
Yep.
each year. And I think a lot of that, which this could be a whole nother conversation, is they specialize in one sport and start
Hmm.
playing at such a young age, and they play year-round travel ball, and it's too much. And so they're getting more injured. I think now, I saw this last year more in high school, and then when they get to college. So that's a whole nother subject. But with that being said, our scholarships were about 7.5. And with that, with the where I work at here at Cal Poly, we primarily stay a little bit more in state. If we are to go out of state, it has to be what's called a bordering state, which is
Hmm.
like your Oregon, Arizona. I think New Mexico falls into it, and I even think some of like Washington falls into that. And I'm probably missing some right
In
now, but
Nevada.
Nevada, yeah. So there's a few of these west bordering states
Hmm.
now. So even if I were to, and we've had some players out of state, but it just means that they're going to have to be able to come up with a little bit of money, and it doesn't cost a ton to attend Cal Poly Pomona. I think it's just right around 8.5, which people spend more than that in their travel ball.
Absolutely.
So 8,500, I think, is what it's at for, tuition and fees here at Cal Poly. But then, if you're living here on campus and you're looking at the room and board, so we'll just say it's roughly 25,000. So if I'm recruiting an out-of-state player and it's a bordering state, and now I can get them an out-of-state fee waiver if their GPA is over a 3.0. That's the key, and it has to stay over a 3.0, or they'll no longer receive that out of state fee waiver. The out of state fees, probably, I'm guesstimating, because I'm not looking on my computer right now, but I'm going to say they're probably like around 13, 14,000 for those out of state. So if they're over 3.0, we can get those waived. So even though, let's just say I have a decent scholarship to offer them, if they qualify for financial aid, that's awesome. However, they're only going to get the Pell Grant. The Pell Grant usually ranges to just around $5,000. So that still leaves a little bit. They don't receive what's called the Cal Grant or the State University Grant. They're the same, essentially the same thing, and that comes out to, I think, roughly around, like, actually the Pell Grant I think is a little bit more now. Now that I think about it, I was just throwing out a number, but let's just say the Cal Grant Pell Grant is about let's just say 7,000. And now they can't get that. So now that's about 7,000, just throwing out some numbers that they may have to potentially come up with,
Yep.
combined with our scholarship, combined with their Pell Grant, because we just combine everything. And then the other thing a lot of people don't know about Cal Poly Pomona is we have no academic money here. So we're competing against a lot of other teams, primarily a lot of private schools that do offer academic money. And also the D3s are a lot of academic
Right.
money, because they don't have athletic aid to
Hmm.
distribute. And so I think a lot of student athletes and their parents are maybe sometimes a little bit just maybe misled or maybe just not. And I don't mean this in a negative way, just maybe not as educated in how the process works. Now, I gave you what's at a state school in California is different, and Minnesota Duluth won national title 3 years ago, fully funded, and I don't know. I'm guessing probably have academic money, so there's different things they can do and package together. But here, I have policies and procedures that I have to abide by. And I think the awesome thing is we've been able to somehow figure it out and be successful and get in student athletes that have bought into our culture, have been just amazing people, and obviously we won a lot of games, so there is what's it called? There's a method to the madness.
Hmm.
It's just not everybody understands it. And so I'll often say, or hear from people, you hear a lot of stuff. Oh, well, Cal Poly didn't even recruit my kid. Well, there's probably a reason. It could be we just missed them. That happens. It's another thing. I only have one or two staff each year. So we may miss it, that's not our intent to miss players, but it is hard for us to get out everywhere because we also have a budget, and those budgets are continually getting cut.
Cut.
Right? And so trying to kind of navigate through that, and for us, the big thing is just maintaining and also gaining networking and communication through coaches, whether it be high school, travel ball, and just trying to find out about new players. We're also looking into the portal as well.
Mhm.
Although this year seems to be probably our most difficult year looking into the portal with the whole revenue sharing, which probably going to be another conversation for you at some point. But anyways, that's a little bit of the structure of our scholarships and in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, each university is different how they operate too, right? I mean, even within the same conference, like you mentioned, some have maybe all the way up to 10 fulls.
Hmm.
Some maybe only have two or three, right? And you're still competing in the same conference, but you're still restricted by the university policies. And then even recruiting, right? Like you said, Division One, they have 4 or 5 staff that they can send to on one weekend. They might be at 3 different locations. I mean, that the cost on that to travel for recruiting. Like a lot of the D2s, D3s, they don't have necessarily that money to, okay, I'm gonna spend one day in Philadelphia, then one day in Ohio, then one day in Chicago. Like that's a lot of traveling. That's a lot of expenses in there. So it's like
Yeah,
we kind
we're
of just have
not
to
doing that.
pick where to go. And I mean, I think that's part of the reason why we talk about it a lot. It's so important to go to the right events for the appropriate levels, right? Because not every kid is a D1 kid. So you might have
Yeah,
to go to a different tournament where you have more D2s, D3 coaches there actually watching your games. We went to EYBL. There's a lot of D1 coaches there. But then there's also a lot of the other courts where there's other D2s, D3s that are still watching a lot of kids,
yeah,
right? So you still have to go to those events, but it's important to find the right locations and making sure you're doing outreach to the coaches because coaches are not just randomly going from court to court. They have a schedule of where they're going to be looking at. They kind of know what players they're going to look for. There might be times where, yeah, you catch a person on a side court that you weren't expecting, but for the most part, your schedules are already planned out for the whole weekend.
yeah, yeah,
Let's talk
absolutely.
about, yeah, let's talk a little bit like about the recruiting process. What do you at Cal Poly? What do you guys kind of look at in the athletes? You mentioned a little bit about the portal, but that's getting a little difficult. What are some of the things you're looking for in kids when you go out recruiting?
Yeah, and the one other thing I'll just add that kind of goes along with this, and then also the last piece we just talked about is also what our needs are.
Hmm.
How many players do we have graduating? Well, what position are they? So let's just say, I'm looking to get a point guard. Well, then there's all these other guards that are available and I like, but because I'm not fully funded, I got to put my eggs into the
You gotta.
basket we actually need. And so I think sometimes coaches don't always, and that the players and the parents don't understand that as well. Repeat your question one more time, because now I just lost my train of thought.
I mean, just talk a little bit about the recruiting process and kind
Oh,
of what are some things that you look for, when you're looking at kids.
yeah. Well, the first thing, before, the number one thing here at Cal Poly is you've got to have the academics.
Mhm.
We can't just recruit anybody. And so, in fact, I just told a parent the other day, like, man, I really, really liked your daughter, loved her. And then, they were like, well, we didn't hear back from you after, so and I said, oh, well, that's because I couldn't get her in, and I'd already told her coach that, but unless I got relayed. But
Yeah.
the other day I was like, I can't do much, if you don't have the academics,
Mhm.
so that's a number one thing. But obviously when you go into a gym and you're recruiting, or I don't get everybody's transcript before we go watch them play either.
Right.
So you kind of hope for the best and hope that they're a good
Mhm.
student. But for me, I want to know you have a motor. I need to know that you're going to get in the game and you're going to work. I think that's one of the most frustrating things as a coach is trying to coach motor, and that could also be used definition of effort,
Mhm.
energy, things like that. Just playing hard, and I think a lot of that has to do with what is your nutrition, what type of conditioning do you have? Because I think those really play in part. I don't think players just go out there and go, "Oh, I'm just not going to play hard," like unless they just know they're going to play and then they're trying to save themselves for
Mhm.
whatever time. But for me, it's like you got to be able to play hard. The other thing, I don't know if I'm old school, but can you move off the ball, please?
Yes.
Move, just move. The amount of standing and watching is hard to watch sometimes. And I think both on the men and the women's side is move off the ball. And I think that's, I posted something on my
Oh.
Instagram, God bless you, posted something on my Instagram probably like a month ago is talking about moving off ball. Well, when do you move off ball? When do you space off ball? A lot of these players are good players and they can take you off the dribble, they can score, but they don't understand the IQ part of the spacing part of the game. And I think that's where the part that I posted was, a lot of times we think that player development is just getting in the gym and just doing shooting drills, dribbling drills, whatever drills you do, a drill, some sort of drill, but you're not actually teaching the IQ part. And there's some
Mhm.
kids that naturally have it. There's some kids that naturally had it, or maybe they were taught it at a young age, but there are a lot that don't know. And so, and actually teaching that, and that could be on the court, maybe it's in a film session, whatever it might be, because this is a part here. So now I'm getting to my other part is you got to have some sort of IQ. And I think depending on the college you choose to go to, IQ is a big deal. And it's one of those things where I could go, like we start workouts tomorrow. I could go throw the ball out let's just say the last 30 minutes of our practice tomorrow. Just let them play pickup, right? Just see where they're at. That's probably what I'm
Mhm.
gonna do. Um, but then it's like I'm gonna then start adding in concepts for our defense, offensive concepts.
Mhm.
And there will be a few, because it happens every year, that are going to completely drop off. And they're good players,
Right.
but they don't have the IQ to understand how to run the plays, understand our defensive rotations, our defensive concepts and philosophies. And we pride ourselves in defense. We're usually top one or two in the conference every year in defense. I think last year we held team number one, or maybe we were number two, holding teams at 58 points a game. That's pretty good.
That's really good.
But you've got to understand our concepts. And so, but I think it's a lost art. And so we get to the gym and we learn all these other how to shoot, how to go off the dribble, go downhill, which is awesome. You do need that. But when are you working on this part of the game?
Mhm.
So for me, it'd be motor, IQ, moving off ball, are some of the like big things. To have a good attitude, be a good teammate. And I think it happens. And I think you have a lot of players that have great attitudes. They're great kids. I'll use, so I don't mention anybody specific. I will mention my daughter in this one. Um, Loves the game, loves her team. But then sometimes, something won't go her way with the call, and she's like, and I was like, you can't do that on the circuit. Like you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so my point is, she's a great kid. She's a great teammate. Those are the teachable type of things. So I think making sure we're teaching those things. So having a good attitude is also like controlling this part too when you're out there. There's going to be bad calls. There's going to be great calls, and being able to kind of move past that. And I think in the moment, depending on the time of the game, what type of game it is, I get they're going to get to us maybe a little bit, especially as coaches too, I think. But I think being able to move on to that next play. So
Mhm.
that's my point is we call it a goldfish mentality. I think the goldfish have, what is it, like 5 to 7 seconds. They can remember stuff. I'm
Yeah.
probably off, but it's around that time. Say, all right, goldfish, goldfish, and just move on.
Mhm.
You're going to have turnovers. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do a lot of great things, but you got to, even if you do a great thing, move on to the next play. You'll see someone make a big shot and they're down there celebrating. Other team's going down
Boring.
scoring, and now you lost the game.
Yeah.
You did great, but goldfish mentality, right? So I'm probably missing a lot of things. Of course, we want to see skill. We want to see, you know, depending on what I'm specifically looking for that year, I want to see. But I don't know. I like to find players that are diamonds in the rough, and personally, and I see something in them, and I'm like, oh yes, I can
I
work
can
with
work with
her,
that.
and I can help her be great. I love that. And especially at our level, you're finding a lot of, I think, diamonds in the rough as well. So those are a few of the things we look for.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the kids nowadays, from what I see at least, they don't watch basketball that much. So I mean, I think that's where a lot of the IQ is lacking, right? They don't go and watch other high school games. They don't go and watch college games, all different levels. And then they don't watch it on TV either. So they're not watching D1, they're not watching the pros. So it's like it's really hard to build your IQ. Even listening to like some of the commentators, they're going to give you some,
Mhm.
IQ things that most kids won't really think about. But it's unfortunate that so many kids don't watch the game right now at any level, but then they still expect to play at the high levels.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And I think that's where you probably see a difference between, I would say, I don't know about all, but a good chunk of like your P5s, or your 5 stars, whatever you want to call them, and some of your real high level kids. Again, not all of them, but some of them are just naturally good.
Hmm.
So I think there's a difference between really loving the game and liking the game.
Hmm.
There's a lot of players that just really like the game.
Yeah.
They want to do their TikToks right after, which is great. It's fun. I love it. They're more focused on getting their TikTok right after their travel practice. And then you'll go look at the players, the real high level players that are down there getting up free throws, getting up shots maybe they missed in that practice, right? And then guess what? They're going to do the TikTok later. They're still going to have fun. But I think like that's the difference between loving the game and liking the game. If you really love it, you're going to study it. We just had Mamba Day. Was it
Hmm.
the 24th, right?
Yep.
Was that, I don't know, my
This
days are mixed
weekend.
up. Was
Yep.
it yesterday or Saturday? But and you think a lot about all the different stories, and obviously he's a goat, right?
Hmm.
But you look at some of his mentality part, they call it Mamba mentality for a reason. He
Hmm.
didn't just become that good.
Right.
He had the mental side and love for the game like no other. And so I think a story that really stands out, I think they were playing Miami, and I think D Wade you probably heard the story, kept hitting him on his
Yeah.
shot, and he was getting frustrated. They didn't call all of them and anything like that. So I guess after the game, I actually think they lost the game. And then he went into the gym and had his trainer, whoever,
Hit them every
just he was
time.
trying to, yeah, hit him every time. Like, who does that? I mean, instead, oh, we're just going to complain. Oh, we lost because of the official or whatever. Instead, taking, okay, well, how can I get better? And that's someone who really loves the game. And I'm sure he probably watched a lot of film on that too. And of course, I'm using a goat, but that doesn't matter. You could do that
Hmm.
high school, junior college. It's all about just getting better. And I think sometimes people will write like enjoy the process or get 1% better. Well, what does that really mean?
Hmm.
What does the process mean? It means, and I started doing this for my daughter because we never really filmed a lot of her stuff, and she's getting better, but just needs to just keep growing, right?
Hmm.
But I started filming her not to post all this stuff on social media, but filming her so she can start. watching herself for one to get better, but two to see, look, this is where you were t- 2 years ago.
Right.
Hey, this is where you were just last month. Look, you were doing this last month, and now look, now you're starting to do this a little bit better now, right? You're starting to face up more, in the short corner more, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
Those are the things that I think is just getting that 1% better. That's hard for a lot of people because, again, it comes down to the hype and that instant gratification that they want. And so I think if we can get parents educated to also understand, hey, you know what? And I think this might be with my kid. She was actually start off way behind, and now she's starting to go here. Well, she may not really develop. And you've seen this. Who was the NBA guy that just the NBA guy that didn't really do much until like his what freshman year in college or something?
Yeah. From
Forget who.
Boston.
Yes, yeah. And then now you look at him. And so I think to see people reach their peaks, because you'll see kids sometimes reach their peak in seventh grade, or you'll hear all this hype, eighth grade, they're ranked, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden you see some of the other players just keep working and just keep working. And so that would be my challenge to anybody is, especially parents too, like, yeah, we put a lot of money, we sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of time, a lot of driving, again, a lot of money, because of course you want your kid to go out there and be perfect every time. And what I'm realizing is, obviously I have that uh, recruiting side of it, but then I also have the parent side of it that I'm kind of going through that process, and I'm realizing, okay, just focus. Is she getting 1% better today? And regardless of all the other things that you're thinking about, is she getting 1% better? And I think if you can have that mindset that they are slowly getting better, is to know, just stick with it, enjoy the journey, and see what happens.
I think that's the hard part for so many kids and parents, right? To actually enjoy the journey, right? Because everyone wants instant gratification. Everyone wants their kid to score 1,000,000 points, shoot it every time they touch it. But like, I talk to so many kids and they don't enjoy their high school experience. They don't enjoy their college experience. And then they look back and it's like, man, I wish I would have more fun when I was younger. And it's like, we're trying to figure out like, how do we help kids understand like, you're going to have some great games, you're going to have some terrible games, and that's all just part of the process. But also having the parents understand, like, I understand you guys are spending a lot of money, spending a lot of time traveling, but also it's like your kid is not going to have a perfect game every single game she goes out there, and that's okay, right? And if you are so hard on them and you kill the joy of the game, then it's like, what are we even doing this for then? Why are we playing so many games? Why are we traveling? To not have fun? Is it just to get a scholarship, just to play college basketball? But by the time they get to college, they're going to be burnt out. And as a freshman, as we know, they don't play a lot. So now it's like there's so much pressure on them to just be perfect. And then they get to college and it's really hard to be perfect as a freshman. Now they're at such a disadvantage when they get there because it's like there's just so much unrealistic expectations put on them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree.
And I just wish more kids, parents would enjoy the whole process of just being a kid, right? Being a high school kid, being 15, 16, 17-year-old kid playing with their friends, traveling, and just really just enjoying that whole experience.
Well, and I think they would if we were all honest where our players are at.
Absolutely.
And I could sit here and tell you, I think my daughter right now is going to be a Division 2 kid right now. She has goals to go play Division 1, which is
Hmm.
great.
Hmm.
Right now, I see her as a Division 2 for a lot of reasons. First, it's her work ethic. There's days like the last month and a half, she's been killing it.
Hmm.
Well, the month of June, I was like,
Right.
um, and I think that, I think again, that's part of the process. I think also being realistic.
Hmm.
I just heard someone tell me yesterday, I've never even seen their son play before, but like, oh yeah, my son, I really think he can go big time. And then he's telling me, his son's playing at the map. I'm not saying that's at the map is like a bad tournament. Okay, let me rephrase that. But I'm saying like if those were the majority of your games were in July, like let's be realistic.
There's levels to this.
There's levels to this, and I think again comes down to the education, knowing what level they're at, and then also knowing there's one level we haven't talked about. That's the whole business side of it. The whole business side of it now with the U.S. Supreme Court passing back in
Hmm.
July with revenue sharing has completely changed the game. Now, I actually love it. Now, it does zero benefit for us at Cal Poly.
Right.
We don't have the luxury of having that. But for me, I look at it and go, man, I went to an SEC school out of high school and played. What if I would have been able to make, I don't know, at that time, I don't know, let's just say 10 to 60 grand at that time. And I'm throwing out maybe a lower number. Like right now, if you're
Yeah,
a higher level player and you're going to an SEC school, I mean, you're making, I'm going to guess 250 and higher
at least.
on the women's side. Like we're not even talking men's side as well.
Yep.
Ball game.
Yep. And then that's a low number, I think, honestly, for SEC right now, right? Like, uh,
Yeah,
I've heard numbers where you're not even going to see the court. You're just filling a spot, and you're still getting paid that much. So imagine those that
exactly.
are the All Americans, the first team all conference.
Hmm.
Those numbers are just, yeah, huge.
They're huge, and so I think that's the other part of it is the parents aren't educated, and so now you're looking at players that are maybe mid-major D2. The mid-majors don't have that kind of money, if they have
Yeah.
any. They may not have any. And that's what they don't understand.
Mm-mm.
Some of these lower level D1s, mid-majors don't have any money. But my point is those ones that are on that bubble, they're trying. I know those schools are trying to get there and find ways, of course. But I think the athletes that are getting recruited by those are trying that much harder to be able to make more at another location
Mm-hmm.
before they commit. And with that being said, is you have all these parents that are so unrealistic, but they don't realize now there is a business side of this at a high level. So when you're going to go play in these tournaments, you've got to know where you're playing at, who's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we kind of talked about that a little bit, but they're just so unrealistic with where, and I think that's the thing is be realistic where your kid's at. And if your kid is down here right now and you want them up here, that's okay. Just like you said earlier, enjoy the process and just
Mm-hmm.
keep trying to get better. Maybe they'll get there. Maybe they won't get there till their freshman year. I don't know. But even if they get there their freshman year, maybe they go play somewhere at a D2 and then all of a sudden they get freshman of the year that year. And now, boom, hey, coach, I think I want to go into the transfer portal because I can go make some money. Well, for me, I'm like thinking, well, why would I hold a player back that had an opportunity? Of course, doing it the right way. I'm not talking about getting poached. Like, I'm big on character and doing things the right
Mm-hmm.
way. But I think that's a pretty, for me, it's exciting that as a player, you could actually make some money in college doing what you love.
Yeah, you wish that was happening when you were playing, I'm sure. With your recruiting class going in, it's like, oh my God, it would have been crazy.
I know. And those are the things, and I don't know if my daughter, she may or may not ever get there. But I tell her, I'm like, do you realize you could actually go make money in college?
Yeah.
Like, how exciting is that? And like that, if that's not motivation, I don't know what is. And it's not just the money. I'm just saying, like, to be able to not have to worry about things or maybe rely on your parents depending on, your socioeconomic background and
Yeah.
all those types of things. So I don't know. I think the landscape is crazy and very crazy. There's a lot of not so good things right now that I don't like, but I also think being able to get paid, I know for some schools is a headache, even the ones that have a lot of money,
Right.
because some players that are getting a lot think they should be getting more. But I also think that it's a good headache. I mean, the fact that, they can, the women's game is making money
Huge. Yeah.
selling out places. I mean, to me, I love it. It's so exciting.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your coaching career. Obviously, just got your 200th CCA win. Also over 400 career wins. Talk a little bit about, I know you probably don't talk about accolades a lot, but talk about kind of some of those personal accolades and like what does that mean to you?
I don't know. Like I've got stuff that my husband's like, you need to post that in your office. And I was like, why? But no, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, I think anybody sitting here, like, it feels great. Um, but at the same time, that's not my motivation. You know, I've been at the Division 2 level for a while. I love the Division 2 level. I think we've been successful for all the reasons why I love it. I love, a lot of times we get players that just really want to play.
Mhm.
We do the best to make them feel special and get them what they can. We're also on a budget, so it's like, they really want to be here, and that's exciting. And for me, when I'm going to their, whether it be a baby shower or maybe
Mhm.
it's a wedding, or maybe they went on to get their master's degree and we're celebrating, and those are the things that I live for. Those to me are my biggest wins.
Those are the wins. Yes.
Those are the wins, and and I think it's a lot of pressure, I think, sometimes for people to sit here and, um, you know, to say, oh, yeah, hey, I'm just here to win. And, oh, well, she's blowing smoke or whatever. It's really not. Now I will say I hate to lose more than I like to win. My players will tell you, the officials will tell you, the coaches, I'm very, very competitive and I want to win. But I think that's just my competitive nature. I mean, we'll
Absolutely.
play games at the house with the family and I want to win. Um, but it's been it's definitely been a fun ride at all the locations. I haven't been to a ton, but the different locations I've been at, and all the different players I've been able to coach. And they're really, you don't just win because I don't know about you and your experience as far as like who but like you don't just win because, oh, hey, that coach is just the best coach. I think they have to be a really good coach, but I also think you win with people
Mhm.
and you win with buy-in. And I think that's in corporations, organizations, relationships, whatever it is. And I think that's the whole part of it, is everybody being able to buy into a common goal, and then move forward to achieve that goal. And with that, knowing it is not perfect. And you've got to be okay. Like, you got to be okay with that. But I think those imperfect things, like, you got to address, hey, all right, we got to improve on this. But I think a lot of times either it's not communicated, we try to brush it under the rug, which eventually causes more problems down the road. So, sorry, it might be a longer
No,
answer to
that's
your question, but to me, I think it's all about buy-in and, all of that. And I've been blessed to have a lot of players and coaches in this program really, really buy in, which, ultimately has led to the success, which shows the numbers that you mentioned.
is there any aspirations? I mean, I'm sure you've gotten offered D1 jobs. Is there any hopes to go coach at a D1 level? Are you happy with where you're at now? What does that look like going forward?
I love Division 2 and hadn't really thought about it until the last couple of years, just with just being approached by a few different schools and whatnot, and it's kind of got my mind going a little bit. But for me, I'm where my feet are right now, and this is where, been here for, like I said, I think 14 seasons, 15 years, and
Yeah,
love it. And if there's an opportunity I need to look at, I think anybody in their right mind. I mean, I know I'm just going on a podcast, but let's just be honest. Anybody who had an opportunity they couldn't refuse, might be hard. But I don't know. I think it all just depends,
yeah,
And right now, my plan is to be here. I want to win a national
national championship.
championship at Cali Pomona. That's my goal, and I think we will, whether it be this year or another year. And but we'll see. I mean, I think you. I'm guessing you're probably asking, so there's been a rise of Division 2 coaches, men and women's side, that have been
Going
hired.
to Division 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why I probably have had in the last few years a lot more Division 1s, that have reached out. But some of those just weren't good fits, and this is where my heart is right now. So yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
No, I mean, yeah, go win a national championship first, and then you could, either ride off on the sunset or, go to Division 1 and see what that whole landscape is.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the podcast. It's been awesome. Learned so much, and also I think we can really help out kids, families, and kind of just sharing their, your knowledge with them. I just, I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity. And just actually, I need to be thanking you just for, a lot of people don't know this. And I know we haven't spoken a lot, but just all the behind the scenes work that you do to help grow the women's game is pretty phenomenal. And so even though I know we may not have spoken as much, but I see you and keep doing what you're doing. And I think it's great. And I think it just brings a lot of excitement. For these particularly the younger girls, and just motivates them. So thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll be able to come catch a game sometime soon here.
Fun, fun.